Why is Africa spending $35 billion annually importing food, when Africa should be the food basket of the world? I want to say this, and make sure you watch me to the end, because we have to address these issues. Because it is so frustrating what is going on in Africa right now. There is conflict in Mozambique, there is conflict in Nigeria, there is conflict in Cameroon, there is conflict in Niger, there is conflict in almost all African countries. The youths are using the Sahara Desert, perilous journeys, dying on the way just to make it to Europe for a better life. Some are dying in the Mediterranean Sea. There are so many of them in the Mexican-US border waiting to go into to get into the US. Some of them, they are going through difficult times. It is so frustrating. The price of food are soaring. People cannot afford to eat. Poverty. And yet we are still importing food when we should be the food basket of the world. The agricultural sector alone in Africa has the capacity to create more than 15 million jobs annually, which means the youths can get jobs just in the agricultural sector, 15 million jobs. But why are we still importing food? We are importing toothpick, we are importing palm oil, we are importing everything. Why are we still importing? When we have the best climatic conditions, we have the best soils, we have the youngest population. 60% of our population in Africa are the youth. 60% are the youth. So we have the energy to be able to farm. We have the innovation. We have everything in Africa. Why are we importing food yearly into Africa? One of the reasons is because the government have refused to subsidize farmers. They have refused to bail out farmers. Bad leadership and bad policies and implementation of even some of the good policies is lacking in Africa and is destroyed the continent as a whole. The richest continent has become the poorest. It is time we start looking at this. Why are they not subsidizing farmers like other counterparts in the other continents are doing? In US, some farmers get up to $125,000 annually as subsidy to support their farming activities. Do we get that in Africa? No. In Europe, farmers are subsidized more than 30%, some up to 40% subsidized, supported. These are financial subsidies in which they can use this money to be able to buy whatever they want to buy to support their farming activities. Is it in the fertilizers? Are there seeds? Is it to pay for labor, transportation costs? They are giving this money. Imagine your cost of production is 100 francs and then somebody gives you 40 francs to support you. What happens? You're going to produce more. You are going to do what? To sell even cheaper and still make appreciable profit. And you can also expand your farm because you have this support. Do we have that in Africa? No. 70% of our farmers in Africa are small-scale farmers. And these small-scale farmers are the ones feeding the world. They are the ones feeding Africans. So they have to be subsidized. They have to be subsidized. There are no two ways about it. We must support them because farmers in Africa should even be subsidized more than farmers all over the world because our challenges are enormous. We are facing more climate change than any other continent. The impact of climate change is hitting Africa more than any continent. We have more dry periods than raining period, which means farmers will need to start engaging into irrigation agriculture. They have to irrigate their farms. As we speak, we have been impacted by the effect of COVID-19. We have been impacted by the Ukraine-Russian war. Fertilizers are expensive, so expensive now. Seeds are expensive now. Pesticides are expensive now. So which means there must be some kind of support, comprehensive support that farmers can be able to get. And this should not be at the level of just farmers in cities or in urban rural areas. It should be farmers deep, even down to the forest, the deepest forest. There should be a plan where they can be able to get money so that they can also fund their own farming activities. When we don't subsidize, that is why it is no surprise that food we are importing, because what we import into Africa is much more cheaper than what we produce locally. Rice from China is cheaper than the rice produced in Dop, Cameroon. You'll find that. Why is it so? Why can't they sell things? How is it possible that they sell things cheaper even after transporting and paying shipping fee and all of this? Why is it still even much cheaper than what we produce locally? The main reason is that they are subsidized by their government. They have the infrastructures in place, which means their cost of production will be very low, much lower. So if the cost of production is lower, they can afford to sell at low prices and still make appreciable profits. This is what is happening. So when they send this produce here in Africa, they can, we can, they can compete with our local produce and even compete better than us. And consumers will prefer buying them because they are much cheaper than what we produce. And this makes a lot of farmers frustrated, and some of them stop farming because farming then is not productive. So these are the things that we must do as Africans to be able to revolutionize the sector. Farmers must be subsidized. Let's talk about the issue of bailouts. I've watched farmers go through horrible times. Some of them face disaster, flooding, earthquakes. So many things happen with their farms. These farmers have never received any bailout. I have so many examples of farmers I've visited. Some of them in Douala suffered from floods and they have never had any kind of financial compensation or bailout from the government or anybody. Am I saying the government is not working? I'm not saying that. Billions upon dollars is reported to be spent annually in the agricultural sector in Africa and in Cameroon. I'm not saying they are not doing it, but what I'm saying is that even if they are doing it, it is not properly implemented. Many of these beneficiaries are not getting this money. They are not being supported. Am I saying international organizations or civil organizations are not helping, or developmental organizations are not helping? They are. They are sending money to Africa, but there should be a comprehensive plan in place, and we have to have systems in place to make sure that these plans are properly implemented. There should be some kind of checks and balances. There should be something in place to make sure that that mother in the village, the deepest part of the village, who is a farmer farming a goosey in a hectare of land or 2 hectares, can be able to get support in the village. We have to be able to do this for Africa to grow. When prices of food keeps increasing, it causes a nation to rise, sedition. A hungry man is an angry man. So we must be able to do this. Bailouts must be in place. Policies must be in place to subsidize farmers. And when we subsidize farmers, these are the advantages. When you subsidize a farmer, it helps the farmer to be able to compete with other farmers that are importing food into your nation, which means we are going to have better prices of food. The next thing is that we are going to have food security, because when you subsidize farmers, it helps them to be able to scale up their production. When you subsidize farmers, what happens? They can create more jobs because they can be able to afford to do what? To pay workers and also expand. So it creates more jobs. And doing the entire scheme, design the entire scheme, we can design the scheme in such a way that farmers are encouraged based on how they produce. So when farmers are producing in a more sustainable way, there is an amount of money that is added to the general money that is used to subsidize them. So this is also as an incentive for them to do what? To produce food the right way. Because in a situation where we find ourselves in, because farmers spend a lot, what they try to do is that they want to get more yield, and they use chemicals and pesticides indiscriminately, and this is affecting the health of so many Africans. Cancer is on the rise in Africa. Food poisoning is on the rise in Africa. We have to start bringing these plans into place. Let's subsidize and do what they call bailouts. We need bailouts for farmers, incentives. We should not do things because of political things. We go and share hoes and cutlasses. This will not solve the problem, because the farmer did not tell you they needed a hoe and a cutlass or wheelbarrows or a spraying can. When we subsidize them financially, it gives them the opportunity to put the money where it is most needed in their agricultural activities and increase productivity.